Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for, but on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So that's the takeaway there.
The only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107
No,
Days.
you didn't.
I did?
No.
So, Kamala Harris has released her latest book, an autobiography that reads like a guide explaining her election loss. Accountability, however, is nowhere to be found. The pages are filled with selective memories, personal monologues, and polished progressive language that sounds impressive at first, but loses weight upon closer reading.
Ask who has a better plan. Republicans crushing it on crime, immigration, wars, the economy, even corruption. Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are f***ing stupid.
Then enters anti-woke critic Bill Maher. Armed with sharp sarcasm and blunt humor, he cut through Harris's explanations, portraying her as detached, confused, and overly theatrical, a politician performing depth rather than showing it. Viewers were warned early. His critique was not going to be gentle.
Perpetuating victimhood, especially when it's false, is not a great advertisement for leadership. Kamala Harris's new memoir of the 24 election is called 107 Days, but it should have been called Everyone Sucks But Me. 107 Days is a victim's title because, get it, she only had 107 days to win. Yeah, and $1.5 billion and a built-in army of about 75 million people who'd vote for any human-adjacent life form that wasn't Trump.
Maher began by mocking the title of Harris's book, 107 Days. He argued the title itself reflected spin, framing her loss as a time problem. Maher rejected that idea entirely. He pointed out Harris had massive campaign funding and non-stop favorable media coverage. She also benefited from millions of loyal Democratic voters. Complaining about limited time, Maher argued, was not tragic, but laughable. In his view, Harris had every possible advantage and still failed badly.
In 107 days, nothing is ever Kamala's fault. Biden lets her down by not stepping down sooner. Pouty face emoji. Gavin Newsom, he was asked for his endorsement, but texted, hiking, we'll call back. But then never did. And then he didn't even ask her to prom. America itself lets Kamala down by not being ready for the running mate she really wanted, Pete Buttigieg. So she's stuck with the Home Depot paint salesman. And the rest is herstory. Poor Kamala. We made her the star of a rom-com and didn't even give her a gay best friend.
Harris didn't simply write a book. She wrote a political drama. In it, she openly criticizes former President Joe Biden, suggesting he waited too long to step aside, costing her a chance to succeed. She also hints at his mental decline. Loyalty is not emphasized. She then shifts blame to voters, suggesting America was not ready for a woman president. Self-reflection never appears. Finally, she blames her loss on failing to secure her preferred running mate, Pete Buttigieg. Deflection replaces responsibility.
Kamala writes that on election night, when it was clear she'd lost, an aide peeled the words Madam President off the cupcakes before handing them out. Oh, geez, that's like a scene from Bridget Jones Runs for President, for Christ's sake.
One story stands out as almost unbelievable. Harris reportedly blames part of her defeat on a campaign aide who removed presidential stickers from cupcakes before distributing them. She presents this act as a turning point in her campaign's collapse. However, the aide did so only after it was clear she was losing to Donald Trump. Maher openly laughed at the absurdity. While others saw campaign failing, Harris saw sabotage in dessert form. The explanation strained credibility.
Kamala writes that on election night, when it was clear she'd lost, an aide peeled the words Madam President off the cupcakes before handing them out. Oh, geez, that's like a scene from Bridget Jones Runs for President, for Christ's sake.
One story stands out as almost unbelievable. Harris reportedly blames part of her defeat on a campaign aide who removed presidential stickers from cupcakes before distributing them. She presents this act as a turning point in her campaign's collapse. However, the aide did so only after it was clear she was losing to Donald Trump. Maher openly laughed at the absurdity. While others saw a campaign failing, Harris saw sabotage in dessert form. The explanations strain credibility.
Look, ladies, I know this isn't fair, but we're all always running against the worst cliche of who people think we are. Women Democrats can't look oversensitive or preachy or unable to laugh at themselves. They also can't look silly, like Gretchen Whitmer did, trying to hide in the Oval Office. They have to look brave and strong.
Carefully built an image of being unshakable. They present themselves as fearless figures who never cry, never hesitate, and never admit weakness. The focus is on projecting dominance, not showing humanity. They perform the Iron Lady routine, wanting to appear flawless and controlled rather than real. But it is mostly performance. Behind rehearsed smiles and scripted speeches is pressure to prove they can survive a male political arena. They bury empathy, believing it signals weakness. The irony is clear. In trying to appear invincible, they come across as mechanical. True strength is not pretending to be steel. It is allowing yourself to be human.
Wasn't a good look for the woman party that all the guys were speaking out for Jimmy Kimmel when Trump went after him, except on the woman show, where for 5 days the outspoken hosts were suddenly as quiet as a geisha.
So if anyone wonders why Bill Maher took aim at the women of The View, here is the context. They struck first, mocking Maher after he questioned their silence during the Jimmy Kimmel controversy. Maher did not stay quiet. He challenged their claimed bravery, calling it staged television courage. When Kimmel faced suspension, rumors suggested The View could be next. Suddenly, the outspoken panel fell silent. No opinions, no moral lectures, only caution. Once it became clear Kimmel was returning, their voices returned as well. Maher's point landed. Their courage appears only after risk disappears.
And on the 5th day, they rose and said, "No one silences us. No one had to. You silenced yourself." Whoopi Goldberg continued, "Did you all really think we weren't going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel? No, I thought you would, but then you didn't." 5 days? Talk about needing extra time to get ready. And if you can't take a breath and laugh at that, you're making my point full.
As Sunny Hostin, Whoopi Goldberg, and Anna Navarro have become symbols of selective bravery. Loud when it is safe, silent when it is risky. Their careers were built on outrage, often using cancellation tactics against dissenting voices. But when attention turns toward them, they retreat into careful language. They understand how harsh cancellation can be, having helped fuel it themselves. Now they move cautiously to avoid the same fate. The irony is striking. Activists fearful of their own movement, yet they continue directing that same mob at others daily. The hypocrisy is obvious, dramatic, and proudly broadcast.
This is really, I'm speaking to the Democrats especially here, because Trump's numbers are down. They're down with Latinos, they're down with blacks, they're down 15 points with whites. And when whites say, "You're not hip anymore," ooh. And yet, in the other poll, on issues, Trump still winning. So this is your big opportunity, Democrats. He's down in the numbers, and you still can't score.
The Democratic Party appears deeply disorganized. The reasons keep piling up. There is no clear leader, no commanding voice to guide the party forward. Instead, it remains trapped in an echo chamber, catering to its most extreme voices. Dissent is discouraged, and groupthink dominates. Reality is replaced by slogans, and online trends are treated as strategy. Adding to the disorder, Kamala Harris has begun criticizing her own party. Rather than accepting responsibility for a major defeat, she rewrites events and shifts blame. The result is confusion presented as leadership, with Democrats paying the cost.
Democrats win by 2 points on respect for democracy. Now, some of this is just because people are stupid. 2 points on respect for democracy. Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption.
In terms of popularity, Donald Trump may be slipping slightly, and that surprises few people. Sustaining momentum after a political comeback is demanding for anyone. Still, polls are not the full story. Trump continues to perform well on issues voters care about most. On the economy, many associate his leadership with lower costs and stronger wages. On border security, he projects firmness. On foreign policy, his America First message remains consistent. He may not win social approval contests, but on perceived results, he remains ahead of competitors.
Democrats win on healthcare, environment, women's rights, respect for democracy. But on those issues, I bet you that are the big ones that they vote on more: crime, immigration, wars, economy, corruption. So That's the takeaway
The
there.
only thing the Democratic Party stands for today is opposition to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I just read Kamala Harris's new book, 107
No,
Days.
you didn't.
I did?
No, you didn't.
I'd like to...
I'll say a lot of lies on this show, but I will not accept that.
Janelle's astery that has become the Democratic Party's main strategy. Stopping Donald Trump is the message, the mission, and the brand. They have relied almost entirely on opposition to Trump for political energy. That approach helped once, when Biden used it successfully. But when Kamala Harris tried the same approach, voters lost interest. The non-stop Trump focus wore thin. People wanted real plans, leadership, and solution. Instead, they saw slogans and recycled anger. There was no clear economic vision, no border strategy, no forward direction. The party spent years defining itself against one man. Now that the outrage has faded, little remains. What is left feels empty, unfocused, and disconnected from the voters they claim to represent.
It's like a diary of what happened, but I was looking for, okay, and what's the plan for the future? There wasn't any, and she's just indicative of the party at large. And by the way, that's one of the reasons she lost.
She's rewriting history in the book, too. She's now against men and women's sports. Like, come on. Like, they tried to dismantle Title IX against women when she was vice president.
Right. I mean, that's just one of many examples.
She could have had 701 days and would have still lost that race.
But you're right. The data says it's cost of living, it's inflation, it's immigration, illegal immigration, all those things. Everything else is at the bottom.
And by the way,
law and order crime.
107 days, way too many for anybody, but including her.
Right.
But the more they got to know her, the less they liked her. I've said this many times on this show. Other countries don't do this. They don't have years to run.
And Bill Maher was accurate. The more voters saw of Kamala Harris, the less impressed they became. That reaction was predictable. Celebrity endorsements, staged appearances, and forced charm created a sense of artificiality. It felt like political performance without substance. Beneath the polished messaging was uncertainty, repeated talking points, and frequent avoidance of tough questions. When pressed, she often deflected or laughed nervously instead of answering directly. Over time, that pattern stood out. Voters wanted clarity and competence. What they received was presentation without policy. Maher did not need to dismantle her image. Her campaign did that on its own by revealing a lack of depth.
They call an election, and they have an election in a month.
Yeah, ignored the influence of money. We should do that.
Right? Yeah, that's going to be hard to get rid of. They tried. Yep. But, no,
It's like you don't need 100 days. You need 107 days. You tell people your plan. This is what I am for. This is my thing. You're selling something. You're selling a vacuum cleaner. If I'm selling a vacuum cleaner, I'll tell you why I think it's best. Am I going to tell you every goddamn day for 2 years? Did I tell you about the attachment that gets under the... Yeah, you did. You told me 1,000 times.
In the end, Maher's criticism of Harris and the Democratic leadership landed with precision. His assessment was direct and difficult to dispute. The party appears adrift without a strong leader or compelling message. Between Harris's constant blame shifting, the performative outrage from hosts on The View, and the party's fixation on Trump, the broader movement feels unanchored. The obsession with messaging over substance has taken its toll. Maher simply voiced what many voters already believe. Democrats are not losing because of Trump alone. They are losing because they lack accountability and direction. Until that changes, political memoirs may continue replacing meaningful reform.